I am back on the road again doing the original one-man show, the Broadway show that I did on Broadway, the show that was show of the year in Las Vegas. I play 18 characters. This show was before the movie, before the musical. You could come and see it. John, where am I going to be, John?
All right, October 10th, you're going to be in Peekskill, New York at Paramount Hudson Valley. October 12th, you're going to be in Des Plaines, Illinois at the Des Plaines Theater. November 15th, you're going to be in Carteret, New Jersey at the Carteret Performing Arts Center. And November 16th, you're going to be in Huntington, New York, back at the Paramount Theater.
Just go to chazzpalminteri.net for tickets. That's chazzpalminteri.net. Go on my website, get tickets. I'll see you there. It'll be a night in the theater you won't forget. All right. Chazz Palminteri here. Monday at 11 o'clock. And I got to tell you, I had him on one time. One time I said, please, Joseph, do it. You know, just one time. He came on one time. I think this is his fourth or fifth time because the audience, the people all over the world say they want to hear more of the great, great designer, the man who's the classical man, Joseph Abboud. Joseph.
Chazz, thank you for having me again. It's like, it's our conversation's continuing.
They love you, man.
I love doing this. I was saying earlier, the show has such great reach. I can't tell you the reaction that I get for being on the show, but I think the fact that we really talk about interesting things and it's not a format, it's just a conversation.
Like I never want to have a planned question.
Yeah.
Well, now you have to be funny and say a joke.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great. I love doing that when you used to do Johnny Carson or Jay Leno.
Of course.
You have to do that because you got 5 minutes. You better be entertaining. You better be funny. Yeah. But here, I like to know, just like the audience wants to know. Yeah. I like to know. Yeah. You know, I'm getting to know so much about you.
Well, you're curious. It's great about your questions because you have a curiosity.
Right.
That kind of shows your intellect. It's like you want to know.
I want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to know how did people do this? Right. How did they chose? And which we have other episodes of you talking about your life.
Of course.
So, but what I want to talk about is the leather jacket.
Yeah. So
because I think about you when I go. I remember I'm mentioning something about a leather jacket, and we were talking on the phone before the show, and you said the leather jacket is that an American image?
It is. What's interesting is on our last show when you had me on, you said to me, you asked me a question: can you wear a black leather jacket over a tuxedo? And it sort of came just out of your thought process.
A long black leather jacket.
And I said, oh my God, of course you can. And it's really cool, and I've done it. But that question sparked a curiosity in me. I said, wait a minute. I did that. I've shown black leather jackets over tuxedos. And I went back through my archives. And John has some great images of my fashions, my clothes, tuxedo with a black leather jacket. So you touched on something, but you actually caused me to send you a text and say, you know, Chazz, after that one comment, there's the myth and the legend of the black leather jacket. And I thought we'd talk about that.
When did that start, Joseph?
Well, I think there's one picture that says it all. It's Marlon Brando on the motorcycle.
The Wild Ones.
The Wild Ones.
And was that it, the Wild Ones?
I think it was the Wild Ones.
Yeah.
Or the Wild One or the Wild Ones. Yeah. But it's Marlon Brando on a motorcycle with the black leather jacket. Now, that's kind of the tough guy, bad boy image that the black leather jacket always had.
That was in the early 50s.
That was, I believe, sometime in the 50s, yeah. And then, of course, you've got Stallone in Rocky.
Right.
And then you have Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Terminator.
Right.
You've got the Lords of Flatbush, and they've got all of them got black leather jackets.
I think James Dean had one, too.
I think he did, and that was very famous. Everybody talks about James Dean in the leather jacket. It's just an iconic American thing, but it kind of has a sexy feel to it. It's appealing, as I said, the bad boy, and it's just a great look. And that's why I went back through my archives
and
went through, we did a photo shoot with Brendan Fraser and Matt Damon and Chris O'Donnell, and they were
Chris
all
O'Donnell,
wearing they were all wearing my black leather jackets, and it's pretty cool. It is pretty cool, and it is an Americana. It is an American idea.
I know this might sound crazy. Was it in the? Did they have black leather jackets in the 30s or 40s? I mean, you're not old enough to know that.
No. I know, but the black leather jacket, also has a sinister side to it. The Nazis, right? The SS.
You know what? You just hit it right on the head to me. Now I understand where they.
It's that whole Nazi, Gestapo, SS, black leather trench coat. He was always the evil guy. So the black jacket was kind of synonymous with something sinister. So we go through that, which is, of course, World War II and all. Then we get to the 50s, and we get to Marlon Brando. And that's the American bad boy. That's the Sylvester Stallone. That's Rocky.
Right.
That's Schwarzenegger in Terminator. So there's an origin there where it was sort of this terrible image of these Nazis in these trench coats. And then it morphed into kind of an American bad boy image.
That's pretty astute because I never thought about that.
Yeah, it's sort of interesting. I mean, when you sort of look at fashion iconic pieces like that, you say to yourself, wow, there's a history to this. There's something cool about it, something to look into. And if you Google some of the images and you do a search, you'll be surprised how many people in black leather jackets you find, and a lot of great celebs and stuff.
You're right. Could a nerd wear a black leather jacket?
Yeah. If the nerd puts on a black leather jacket, he may become cool. So there's an interesting, he may have stumbled on something. I always love those kinds of pieces. We talk about wardrobe all the time, and I always talk about the perfect tuxedo. We talked about that. We talked about the leather jacket over it. I always find that there are these kinds of iconic things like the perfect dark suit, right? The perfect dark suit.
Right.
I love that. Those are things that are timeless. Problem I have is sometimes when we talk about fashion, the younger guys are saying, well, it doesn't mean anything to me. In truth, they're listening. There's something in their DNA that says, hey, maybe I'll get a black leather jacket. There's something in it. There's a yearning to know about it, although the focus on fashion has been less because of, the internet and other distractions. But when we were growing up, fashion was a question of how you looked and how you presented yourself.
It was everything.
But I think, look at Dante. He's learning how to approach fashion and how to show himself and how to present himself. A handsome young guy, but he realizes that clothes are important. It's not just some archaic idea from the past. It's right now. And young guys need to. We had a mental block with COVID. It stopped the world of fashion dead in its tracks.
It did.
Nobody was getting dressed. Everybody was home. Everybody's working from home. And basically, there's a mental block when COVID started. And now we have to re-educate young guys that it's important to look good and to dress well at the appropriate time.
Well, what does that show you? I mean, obviously you have a huge company, but if someone comes for an interview at your place,
sure,
and they're dressed really nice, doesn't that say something about them?
I have to tell you a story if we have time.
We have a lot of time. Go ahead.
So, in the early 2000s, I was in my office, and I got a call from a financial company. I won't mention their name.
Right.
And they say, we'd love to come and pitch. We'd love to manage your portfolio. Okay. So I'm sitting in my office, and I was just kind of dressed. I had my jacket and I had a shirt and tie on. And both guys come in, and they're wearing just a plain shirt with their sleeves rolled up. Now, they represented a very big financial firm that everybody would recognize them.
Right.
Now, all of a sudden, these two guys are now starting to feel a little intimidated. Oh, we didn't know we should get dressed. I said, it's okay. And so they're apologetic, and they're talking about managing my money.
Yeah.
And I think they're trying to make up for not being dressed. And but they didn't know. But how do you not,
How do you not know?
I mean, you want to talk about dressing appropriately. They see a picture on my desk. And it's a picture of Mike Torres throwing the ball to Bucky Dent.
Bucky Dent.
And they both signed it. So now these two guys are digging themselves deeper in the hole. And they say, wasn't that a great moment? Bucky Dent, Mike Torres, who used to pitch for the Yankees. And I said to him, guys, I don't think you know this, but I'm a Red Sox fan.
But why would you open yourself up for that?
Because they were digging their hole deeper and deeper.
They were trying to,
because they realized that they felt insecure because they didn't think they were. Now they should have been more dressed or appropriately dressed.
Shit.
And this is before.
That's great.
But it was great. But I said to them, they think I'm a Yankee fan, and I said, I think they're assholes.
Now you hate them. They got no shot.
But it just shows you that if they had just thought about, we're going to go to a fashion company, maybe we should wear a jacket, maybe don't have to wear a tie. But they came in with their sleeves rolled up like they were just lifting a bag of groceries.
It shows.
And I kind of
agree.
laughed at the whole situation because it was so amusing to me that they kept digging the hole deeper and deeper. So
Yeah. When I used to do, when I did the Tonight Show, the Letterman and Leno.
Yeah.
And I remember they used, especially Letterman. Letterman would always tell me, "Hey man, off camera."
Yeah.
Sometimes he said it on. He goes, "You look like a movie star. You look great." He was so nice. He always appreciated.
Remember, he would wear his double-breasted suits all the time.
Yeah.
He was always dressed.
He was always dressed, and he told me, he said, "I just don't. People just. I know some stars or comedians but can't you just dress up a little bit?"
Yeah.
It bothered him, and I know it bothered him.
Well, I think it's about dressing appropriately. You sent me that. You texted me that photo of you in that linen suit at the U.S. Open.
Yes.
You looked like a movie star,
Well,
which you are.
Well,
so I so love that you knew that this was the right place,
Yes.
and the right time to wear that linen suit.
wear that
End of
linen
summer, right? Kind of somewhat casual. Didn't have a tie on.
Right.
You looked really dashing in that suit.
Right.
I guess a lot of people commented on the suit.
Yes, they did.
I think you were with Jamie Foxx.
I was with Jamie Foxx.
Yeah,
That's correct.
I think that's the cool thing.
Don't forget my restaurants. I got two of the finest Italian restaurants anywhere. In Manhattan, 30 West 46th Street, between 5th and 6th Avenue, and 264 Main Street in White Plains, New York. And please, all you have to do, folks, is mention I watch Chazz Palminteri's podcast. Free desserts for the table. Not just for you, for the table. You got that? That's all you have to do is mention to the waiter, I saw Chazz Palminteri's podcast. I'm a fan of his. I gave orders to everybody at both restaurants. Free desserts, handmade desserts made there at the restaurant, at the table.
It's nice to be noticed the right way. It's nice to be dressed appropriately.
I mean, I just think it's, I don't know. Maybe it's a, is it an era, a time
No,
thing?
I think about that all the time. Am I talking, a lot of people say, well, you came from the 80s and the 90s.
My son is a Gen Z, dresses beautiful all the time.
That's what I'm trying to say. The young guys are really learning about it, but they've got to start at point zero, which is after COVID. It was after the pandemic. Now they've got to relearn all of this stuff.
Wow.
But I think there's hope. And my whole career, Chazz, was how do I make American men look and feel better? What can I do? That's my job. My job isn't sort of glorifying me. My job, if I'm going to be a craftsman or whatever I'm going to be, is to make my craft, make my work approachable and appealing to American men. Because I spent maybe 50% of my time living in Europe when I started my first collections, and I always saw young guys, not older guys, young guys
Europe,
dressing well.
Yeah.
17, 18, 20. Well, they learned from their parents. They learned that dressing was important. You go to London, we talked about it, you go to Paris, you'll see people still getting dressed. I don't see that in New York as much. You see a guy in a suit, it's a rarity now when you see him walking down.
Yes.
And so my job for my whole career is to try to educate American men that it can be fun, it can be appropriate for the time you live in. Young guys still have to get dressed. They still have to go to events. There's still black tie events. So, and that's where I've spent my whole career really hoping that I can lend some information to help them.
Yeah, well, I have to say, and I'm not saying this because we're friends and you're in front of me now, you're one of the few, there are others who have a sense of men. Ralph Lauren.
Yeah.
Is it Ralph Lauren or Lauren?
It's Lauren.
Lauren, I'm
Yeah,
sorry. Ralph
yeah.
Lauren. You, a few people who, when you dress a man, you, Joseph, and no matter what, whether he's wearing a suit, a
Right.
sweater,
Right.
a shirt,
Right.
a polo shirt, I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
They look like men.
Well, I always believed in celebrating the difference. I love the feminine form. I love
Yes.
women. I want them to be beautiful and sexy and appealing. Does that sound archaic? I want men, it doesn't matter. I want them to be handsome and appealing. And I want that guy who's a janitor in Missouri to put on a tuxedo and feel like James Bond.
Yeah.
That was my job, is to make them look and feel better, and to make men look like men and then women to look like women. This whole androgynous thing.
Right.
We go through some crazy stages in the fashion world.
Right.
Things that it's almost politically correct to like, but I don't like it.
Yeah.
Meaning, I don't want to see men look like women and women look like men. I don't. That's
I like to see the difference in dress.
Yeah. Well, if you go back through some of the great magazines like Vogue, and you go back through GQ and Esquire, where there was the masculine ideal, a handsome guy in a great suit or jacket or leather jacket,
Right.
women in a beautiful dress, or even women, like, for example, this famous shot of a woman in a man's tuxedo. She looked great, but it was very sexy, and that's part of my women's collection. So you can inspire,
Right.
from women's wear, you can take ideas from men, but you've got to make it feminine and appealing. That's one of the things. And there's that shot of the leather jacket with the white scarf.
You take a photo of this, right?
Yeah, I think John's got it.
A leather jacket with a white scarf.
Pretty cool.
I mean, hello.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. And for the naysayers who say, it's still very cool. It was cool then, and it's cool now, and it'll be cool 20 years from now.
And that's why it's called classic.
Yeah, and people have taken this word classic and they go, boring time. Everything that's created beautifully in clothes comes from some classic idea, no matter how modern. We just lost Giorgio Armani.
Yes.
He passed away. There will never be a name as recognized or had as much impact on fashion as Giorgio Armani.
Right.
He was brilliant. He knew how to dress men.
He did.
He knew how to dress women. He knew how to design the home. He was a gentleman. I'd met him a few times. We had sister companies together. Was always a class act. And he will never be replaced. Never be replaced, ever.
I agree with you. I liked him a lot, and I met him when I was nominated for the Academy Award, because I wore one of his tuxedos.
Yeah.
That he told me he wanted to give it to me.
Yeah.
And it was just so, like the tuxedo that you made for me. It's when you wear a real special
You feel great.
tuxedo, it's not like when you go you're in a wedding party and you go get 5 tuxedos.
Yeah,
it's not the same.
No, it's much different. And I think that you just touched on something, which is when you put something on that fits well and feels good, you automatically feel better.
Oh, yeah.
You just automatically feel better. Just talking about with Armani and what he did, his big break was with Richard Gere. Not his big, he was already on his way to stardom,
Yes.
Armani. But he did American Gigolo, I think, in 1980.
I remember that.
1980, he did and Richard Gere was handsome and young and had all of Armani's
Right.
clothes. And then years later, he did The Untouchables.
Yes.
And you could see the interesting thing, and this is what I always look for, I could see Giorgio Armani's handwriting in that movie. And that's,
Really.
that was really special. And so we, American designers, European designers, if they have some credibility, they'll last beyond their lifespan. They will.
That's a very good point, Joseph. Do the American designers, I'm American, so Armani, Joseph Abboud,
Ralph Lauren is another legend. Ralph is another legend. Yeah.
All you guys, what are you as big in Europe as you are here?
The irony is, and I'm leaving for Japan next week.
Right.
I'm celebrating the 30th anniversary of our business in Japan. I'm doing a tour of the country. I have never seen a market. I would say the crown jewel, and this is a very interesting statement, the crown jewel of the Joseph Abboud business is in Japan. Wow. It is. We've got 50 shops, over 50 shops. There's something about the Japanese culture, especially when it comes to fashion, that they look behind the label. They're brilliant when they understand the essence, the DNA. You know, what's the essence of DNA of, let's say, Chazz Palminteri, right? People look behind you and they go, this is what he represents. This is the work he did. This is who he is. That's what they do in Japan. And I must tell you, when I come back from Japan, I'm intimidated because their sense of style, their retail stores are magnificent. I come back depressed because it's an art there. And by the way, you know how in the United States, menswear is somewhat a stepchild to women's wear? In Japan, menswear is king.
More than women's wear.
Well, it's unbelievable.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the stores that has 7 floors of men. You love watches?
Yes.
There's a floor of just watches. I went there. I didn't want to leave. And they have creative courage. They're not afraid to show different things, not predictable things. I absolutely love it there. And I'm really looking forward to the trip. But it's just a testimony that we started this business over 30 years ago. I was telling John, I was invited by the Japanese government over 30 years ago as an international designer to show in Tokyo. And they invited 2 designers from around the world. Me, a young designer from America, and Pierre Cardin, who was a legend already then.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, I almost couldn't believe it. I said, why are they picking me? Well, sure enough, shows for 2,000-3,000 people. And at the end of the show, the people come back to me and say, Mr. Cardin would like to come in and congratulate you. Now, it might be something like with you meeting Robert De Niro.
Sure.
I said, Pierre Cardin wants to meet me?
That's very
I'm
nice.
just a young guy. And he came back and loved the collection and was so gracious. And I had the chills. I mean, I basically was starstruck.
Yeah.
That this legend, Pierre Cardin, who I knew of from when I first loved fashion and knew about a shirt or a tie, came back to congratulate me. It was just a special moment. So Japan means a lot to me. It has a lot of history for me.
Now, are there Japanese designers that are big in Japan?
I don't know. Yes, there are some legend. Issey Miyake is a brilliant Japanese designer. There was a brand called Kenzo. He has since passed away. But the best Japanese designers are not the ones that try to replicate Western clothes. It's the Japanese designers that do Japanese fashion, and it's
men,
men and women. They'll do it's.
But a suit is a suit, right?
Yeah, but there's something about their fabrics, their color sensibility. Maybe I'm just in awe of it, but it's brilliant. And I spent 50% of my time in Scotland and London and Paris and Milan and Florence. And those are brilliant, creative places. But when I go to Japan and I look at their fabrics that they create in Japan, not to replicate some other fabric that was made in Europe, the creativity is endless. It's like intimidating.
But my wine, Chazz Palminteri Cabernet, a great bottle of wine, a great price. It's the working man's wine, the immigrant wine. $23. Tastes like a $75 bottle of wine. You can pick it up at any Stu Leonard's. Go to your liquor store, tell them to pick it up. They will get it for you. You can also get it, before I tell you that, my cigars. This came out first, me and Paulie DeSilva. This is the flagship model, the very first one. Incredible mild cigar, voted number 8 in the world, boutique cigars, cigar enthusiasts. Then we came out with the Cologio. That's what my name is, if they're my grandfather. This is a stronger cigar, the Cologio. Then we're coming out with the Sunny, the most robust cigar of all. As you can see, we have it in red, like Sunny, the character, strong. You can pick up the cigar and the wine if you want to get them online at lcgcigars.com. Ireland, Paris,
yeah.
France. Do they have their own designers there?
Yeah,
Or is it a sense that they look at American designers higher?
No, I think if you looked at the pecking order, it was originally the French designers like Yves Saint Laurent and Pierre Cardin.
Right.
And that was in the 60s.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
60s, the French designers were king.
King.
Okay? And then Italy was a country of manufacturers. The 70s come along, in the early 80s, the birth of Giorgio Armani and Versace. And so the Italian designers became king. And then American designers, yes, we have a place in history, but I think if people think of designers, they think of Italy, and they think Coco Chanel, who was French. Those are the names, the hierarchy, the prestige names.
Right.
And it's just kind of amazing. I worked for Chanel for a couple of years. She had since passed away, but you could see the awe. And so think about this. England has its monarchy. That's their royalty. America had its movie stars. That was our royalty. Italy had its designers. That was their royalty.
Wow.
So if you look at Giorgio Armani, a deity, really, and a humble one at that, a gentleman and a talented one. But so those European designers have such a status position in their country's histories.
This is fascinating to me.
I mean, the history of fashion is, people think it's very superficial, and there's a lot of giant industries and businesses and legacies and people that will never be replaced.
Now, you said something interesting about the monarchy in London, in England.
Yeah.
Who designs the king's family?
So everybody in the menswear industry, everybody wants to be, we used to call him the Prince of Wales. Now he's the king.
Right.
So that Savile Row, which is a street in London,
Yes.
is where he has all his clothes made. Now, if you go into some of those stores, you'll see clothing from Winston Churchill, from from the wars of Napoleonic Wars.
Right.
They've got the clothes that they made for them.
Wow.
And so he gets, and some of them have the royal warrants, which means they are approved by the crown. That's really kind of cool. I think we talked about it. If we ever want to get on a plane and see the history, it's really, really cool. It's a very mensy history, We talk about fashion. A lot of times when people talk about fashion, they think about women's wear. First thing they think
True.
about Vogue, They think of the red carpet. Here, the red carpet is always, it's really the women that are the most important on the red. We guys are just accessories. But the red carpet is where they show, women's wear, and they're the stars of the red carpet.
Here.
In
America.
I think you'll see that if you go through and you look at the way people dress, or even like Savile Row, where we talk about that great custom tailoring in London, or those great Italian makers that made these beautiful soft jackets. That jacket that we talked about last time, the black and white Glen plaid, that's called the Prince of Wales. That jacket pattern is called the Prince of Wales.
Because you wore it?
Because it's literally a design that is dedicated to the Prince of Wales. That Glen plaid, yeah. It's pretty cool. They have their, it's almost like an endorsement. That's their design.
That's their design.
But we certainly love it and replicate it whenever
now,
we
what
can.
is I forgot how it looks like. Houndstooth?
Houndstooth. Well, yours was a Glen plaid. Houndstooth is that big check.
It's a big check.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, you want to talk over crossover from women's fashion to men's fashion. Coco Chanel had an affair with a British lord, and she fell in love with his men's clothes. He had Savile Row clothes, and there's a famous picture of her taking one of his tweed jackets and wrapping herself around it. And to this very day, Chanel is influenced by those big checks, houndstooth plaids that were, and that's all women's wear now. Chanel is women's wear, but it was influenced and it came from menswear and came from Savile Row and custom tailoring and all those great suits.
But usually houndstooth is a sport jacket.
Well, a houndstooth can be a suit in a smaller pattern.
Okay.
And a Glen plaid can be a suit in a smaller
And
pattern.
then when did was that in the 60s?
So that goes back. So that goes back to weaving to before 1900. That goes back to the 1850s and 1860s. If you really pushed it, it goes back to the Scottish clans in the 1500s when they started weaving their tartans. So all that history has found its way up to your jacket in your wardrobe. Your jacket has a DNA from 1500. It's pretty cool though, and that's what I think. Knowing about clothes and the history of it, and the history of fabric, all those great Harris tweeds that are hand woven on the islands off of the coast of Scotland, that stuff that's been centuries that they've been doing that. And I love the history.
Now,
of
when
it.
you went to a wedding in Scotland, right?
Pardon me?
You went to a wedding in Scotland.
Yeah. Oh, I was.
You wore a kilt.
I was in the. Yeah,
Where was that?
That was in Glen Eagles. That was their formal wear, like we wear tuxedos, is kilts, and a formal.
That's
kilt.
a formal thing.
So I'd never worn a kilt before, but I said I'm going to put my spin on this. I'm going to become the evil Black Prince. So instead of a red and green, and I did a shadow black tartan, meaning black and dark gray. Instead of the traditional bow tie, I wore a black turtleneck, and I had a black scarf. And I have to tell you, now this is a little self-aggrandizing, but Rod Stewart came up to me and said, he stopped me. He literally, I was walking by.
Now, is he Scottish?
He's Scottish.
Okay.
Yeah, he was there for that. And he stopped me and he said, I love your scarf. And I said to my table, I said, do you know who just said hello to me? Just loved my scarf? Was Rod Stewart. So, yeah, I loved it. And I said, I'm just going to give a Joseph Abboud spin to this whole tartan kilt thing. But it was cool. I think I'm going to text John a picture of it.
You got to text John a picture.
Yeah, it was the coolest thing. So I was the evil Black Prince for that night.
Now, when men wore the kilts, what did women wear?
Well, women would wear big draped, long. Some of them would have dresses and embroideries, but the Scottish tartan was, their formal. And interesting enough about the tartans, there's a dress tartan, a hunting tartan. So let's say there's a Royal Stuart tartan. It's getting into the weeds a little bit, but there's different versions of the tartan. But women wore tartan dresses and tartan shawls. So it's historic and authentic, and it's fun. But for me to be able to go to a real evening event, New Year's Eve, in a tartan.
Were most of the men in?
Oh, everybody was. Yeah, no, this wasn't like.
Oh, so you had to wear a kilt.
Yeah. This is like if you got invited to a black tie event, you showed up in a light blue suit, you'd be out of place. So all the guys showed up, but I was the only one with the black tartan. So that was pretty cool.
You were like the Joker.
I was like the guy who just said, you know what, I'm gonna just give it its little spin. But it was all very proper. The jacket was right. You have the high socks. You have the little dagger on the side of your kilt. It was like the coolest thing. I had the best time.
And that's from what year? I mean, that's from.
I did that 2 years ago.
No, I mean, when did that start? The kilts.
Well, I think
Was that an
the
ancient
kilts.
thing?
The kilts come back from what we were talking about, the clans on the Highland. The kilt was originally it wrapped around the shoulders, and then it was just one big piece of cloth, and they wrapped it around and kind of created that. And then over the years, they developed it into its own item.
And they still have, obviously. So if there's a wedding, a formal wedding, they wear.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool shops where if you haven't worn it, that you can go in and have it made for you. Still a lot of those little crusty shops, that are kind of cool with great history. And
As a man, you have to feel strange in that, but don't you?
I tried to masculinize it a little bit. I tried it to be, okay, yeah, guys. It's a weird thing. When you're wearing it in the right environment, it doesn't feel feminine. When you're wearing it in the right environment. And that's what it was. You remember we talked about dressing appropriately for the right event. We talked about you at the U.S. Open.
Right.
You dressed appropriately for that.
Right.
if I wore that black kilt and that jacket to a black tie event in New York, it'd probably be laughed out of the place. But I dressed appropriately for in a castle, at an event that was the appropriate attire.
Right. Now, like we just getting back to the leather jacket.
Yeah.
Is it possible? I don't think it is. I could be wrong. Is it possible to have a black tuxedo, leather tuxedo?
Well, that's a very interesting question. What you could do if you really want to stretch the rules,
Right.
you could maybe do a black leather tuxedo jacket, but you're not going to be wearing a black leather pant.
You can't.
But because then you look like a briefcase, right? You can't. So
Right,
you can't.
right.
So there's ways of pushing it. One of the ways that I had done some black suede formal vests embroidered to go under a tuxedo. So I was trying to push that a little bit, where you could do something a little bit different, but not be the guy that looks out of place.
If it's too much of one thing,
If it's like an overripe melon, if you go too far, it starts to become rotten. So, you know what I always did to myself? I said, I've got to show restraint. How far am I going to go, and then am I going to pull back? How far can I push it that makes sense? Because I always said, I never want to see something that I created that I'm embarrassed by. I never.
has that ever happened
Your
to you?
body of work, right?
Yes.
Your body of work. You look back, you've made some incredible films, you've done
Right.
so much, and I'm sure you're proud of each and every one. Do you like some better than others? Maybe.
Of course, yeah.
But I think you may have had the same mindset without thinking about it. I only want to do something that's quality, that represents who I am. And that's what I try to do with my clothes, to represent who I am. And that's why I never put a lot of logos on my clothes. I never did. I thought it's more about you and not about me. I don't need you to buy into someone else's style.
Right.
And I'm not a big logo guy. I'm not a big logo guy.
Yeah. What is? We're at the end of our time here, Joseph. But I want to ask you a question here.
Sure.
I asked Burt Bacharach once, many years ago,
I
when
loved
he was
him, yeah.
alive. I said, "What was of all the awards and everything you got, what was the proudest moment of your career?" Now, Burt Bacharach, right? So I'm sure you got a lot of proud moments. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know how many hit records this. He goes, "Well," he said, "I was walking on Fifth Avenue in the 50s, and I was on my way to a meeting, and a guy walked by me whistling one of my songs." And I was like, "What?" He said, "I know he didn't do it because he knew who I was. I know it." He said, "It was just not right next to me, but the song was on my way to, if you know
The way to
have-"
stand and say, yeah.
The guy
Yeah.
was whistling it, and he said that was something that he never forgot.
And I think that.
So what was your?
You brought that up. I always used to say, like, who's your hero? Who's your icon?
All right.
And I said, you know what the happiest and proudest moments for me was? I'd be walking up Fifth Avenue, and someone would be walking next in the other direction. It was wearing something I designed.
Wow.
And that guy didn't know who I was. And it's eerie that you just said that, because those moments, I said, that guy just spent whatever he spent some time to believe in my work. And he was walking this way, and I would do this. I didn't stop him and say thank you. That's one of the greatest moments for me, to see people who don't know who I am
That's amazing.
wearing something that I created, because it's substantiation that your work meant something to somebody.
Wow.
Yeah.
And with that, that is the end of our show. Joseph Abboud, it is just an absolute pleasure to have you. I learned so much when you come on about life, about fashion. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to, you just have to, when you walk into a room, if you want people to notice you in a great way, not noticing you in a way of like standing out, but he takes whatever you have and elevates it, and everybody's a movie star in Joseph Abboud's
That's right.
clothes. everybody.
Chazz. Thanks,
Joseph,
Thanks, Chazz.
thank
Love
you very much. And I know you'll be back on.
I love you. Thank you.
All right. God bless him. See you next week.
Thanks.